Welcome to This Week in Canada on the Sauter on Sports Podcast Network. I am Mark Sauter. He is Tom Brown. And it is good to be back. Missed you, Tom, last week. If you at all want to kill yourselves and relive the pain of the Olympic heartbreak, then go back to last week's episode with Ryder from the S.O.S on Oilers Nation. That was a lot of fun talking about Team Canada, but that is behind us. There's a new Team Canada on the horizon. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Make no mistake, I'm well aware that the trade deadline is like 2 days away at 5 o'clock. So hold on, I got to fix something here. Professional podcasting. Tom, there you are. All right, back to me. Here we go. At 5 o'clock, if you're watching live, we will have a trade deadline show, the NHL show. Jim is joining me from Full Press. He's everywhere. He's on Sirius XM, on TSN Radio. He does the works. So he'll join me a little later. We'll talk about the NHL. But today, This Week in Canada, we're going to talk about baseball. We're going to start with the Toronto Blue Jays. We're going to do a little World Baseball Classic, which is a fun tournament now. We'll talk a little bit more about it. It was not fun, at least not for me for the first little bit, but it's a tournament that I look forward to now. So, yeah, we're going to get into all of it. But first, before we do, Tom, how are we feeling on a baseball Wednesday, man? It's good to see you.
We're feeling fantastic, man. I mean, it's March in Winnipeg, so darker gray is breaking through a lighter one. They canceled the end of the World Series. They canceled the gold medal games for both hockey tournaments in the Olympics. So I'm looking forward to some sports that aren't canceled. You know, I'm looking forward to the 2026 MLB season. I'm looking forward to the World Baseball Classic. Looking forward to the NBA playoffs. I do have a quick question for you. I know you mentioned that at 5 Eastern, you're going live with the trade deadline show for the NHL.
Yeah.
Do you foresee the Montreal Canadiens making any kind of moves? I know they gave up 6 goals last night. The biggest hole on the team being the one between the pads of whomever they play in goal that night. I've seen Pierre LeBrun talk about it. I've seen Darren Dreger talk about it. I've seen what's that other guy's name? Nick Kyprios talk about it. Now I want to see Mark Sauter talk about it. Is there a chance for Jordan Binnington, who has 1 year left of term after this one, to be the Montreal Canadiens starting goaltender heading into the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. That game yesterday, like, to me at this point in the season, I think you've had a roller coaster ride with the Montreal Canadiens goaltending situation. Pretty much the whole season, you've had really high highs and really low lows. To me, I just think the Sharks, that speaks more to me about the Sharks than it does the Canadiens. I think the Sharks are not, I've said this 1,000 times on this show and on different shows, like, it's not guaranteed 2-point night anymore against the Sharks. They're like a really good team, and you have to take them seriously. And I just think sometimes these teams on the East Coast go to California and kind of underestimate what they're going to get welcomed with when they get there. When it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, I can see, I'm not saying that they won't make a move. And all the guys that you mentioned are much more in touch than I am. I just think that the Canadiens have done a really good job of staying the course. They've done a really good job at not rushing the rebuild, not rushing success. And clearly they're not rebuilding anymore. They made it to the playoffs last year, and they're going to make it this year. Even if they fall off a cliff, I still find it hard to believe that they would miss the playoffs at this point. I just don't see them doing anything earth-shattering that would change the trajectory of their future. And like Jordan Binnington is a guy, and I know like the St. Louis defense situation is not pretty, but over the last couple seasons, Binnington has the reputation of big game player and one of the worst goalies in the NHL during the regular season. So he has 1 year left, like you mentioned. Is that they have some really good young uh, goaltenders that just need to grow. Typically, a goaltender doesn't hit their prime until 26, 27 years old, roughly. So I don't think they should do anything risky, anything earth shattering. I can see them maybe trying to bring in a depth piece, maybe bottom six player. But I just think they've done such a good job at taking their time. And I don't know, like to me, and this goes for every Canadian team, although it looks like it's going to be Montreal and Edmonton who makes the playoffs. But even that, the Oilers are going through some tough times right now. I just think that I just think that, you know, when it comes to the playoffs, we've seen this in baseball, especially, but when it comes to the playoffs, less so in basketball over the last few years. But win or just like get in and see what happens, right? That's kind of the motto. Just get in, see what happens. We see that with baseball all the time. Less so with the Dodgers being where they are, but win, like get in and see what happens. And to me, I just think that it's Tampa Bay, Carolina, Dallas, Colorado. I just think there's 4 teams that can win the cup. And if I think that, then I'm sure people who do this for a living think that. And so why do anything that's going to change your long-term trajectory to probably not win a Stanley Cup, in my opinion?
Right. So you're saying there's a chance, eh?
Yeah, man. I don't know. Like I can see them doing something, but Jordan Binnington, I think like if he was a free agent at the end of the year, then like why not? But like, you know, Jacob Fowler, Montembeault, Dobish, like they have some really good young goaltenders. It's like you really want like Binnington for another season. Like I would rather get him, see how he performs, and then go from there rather than have him locked up for another year. I don't know.
Right.
That's just me. That's just me. But yeah, the trade deadline for Canadian teams is fascinating because like the Leafs need to just recoup some assets.
Yeah, the
And
Leafs, it seems the Leafs need is there a way that they could rewind to the last couple of trade deadlines and undo
oh my god.
the short-sighted moves? You were just talking about cautioning against the teams like the Canadians and Oilers making this year. If they could go back in time and unmake those moves from the last couple of few trade deadlines in Leafs land, what a day that would be, eh?
Well, like to me, and I guess this is Canada because Vancouver was involved. Like Tyler Myers went to Dallas today,
Right.
and from Vancouver for a second round pick next year and a fourth round pick in 2029. And they retained half of his salary. Now he was only making $3 million, but still they retained half of his salary. He has next year as well on his contract. In Leafland, to me, it's not even the deals that you made as far as the player that you got, it's the price you paid. Like giving up all these first round picks and giving up Fraser Minton and giving up, you know, all these different players, it was a heavy price then. And then you're looking back at it now and you're like, what in the world? Like, was that really what they were asking? Like, or did the Leafs just get, trigger happy trying to get something done? Um, but the Leafs, like, they have to recoup some draft picks here. And if they even if they use those draft picks or not, if they use them to, trade for players later, whatever, I don't care what they do with them. I just they have to just regain the assets, like you said, man. Like the price that they paid last year is just ridiculous.
Well,
Montreal,
when you get to the point where the pantry is empty, you just go to No Frills and pick up whatever's on sale because you don't worry about the specific recipes at this point. There's no food in the house. You're not going to be too picky, right? Just get what you can get.
oh yeah, 100%. And I think what that trade said to me today. I feel like it was because Tyler Myers is a really good, solid defenseman. Very good. He's huge. He's 6'7". He
we know about
is
him in
very good in the offensive zone. He's not a puck mover per se. Like, you're not going to rely on him to break out of the defensive zone. But once you're in the offensive zone, he can make plays. He can hold the line. He's a really good player. And like a second rounder and a fourth rounder, like 4 years from now. So, like, to me, if you're the Leafs and you have Brandon Carlo, I mean, I think you can get that for Brandon Carlo. You have OEL, you can certainly get better than that for OEL. Like, I think if you're the Leafs and you saw that trade, that kind of set the watermark of like, oh, like we can actually get more than maybe we thought we could, if that is what the market's telling us right now. When it comes to the rest of the country, like Montreal, like I said, they might do something. I think they should just stand pat. Like, that's a really good team there, and I don't think they need to get over. Yeah, and I don't think they need to get overly aggressive. I think the Oilers, I think, getting Connor Murphy the other day, like, that's a really good, solid pickup for them. And they needed to do it because they traded Kulak along with Stuart Skinner for Tristan Jarry, and that left a really big hole, I think bigger than they thought it would leave.
Yeah.
They already kind of pulled the trigger with the goaltending decision, and I think it was probably the wrong one. I like Connor Ingram, but we'll see. But I don't know really what else the Oilers will be able to do.
That's the flip side of these moves, right? That Tristan Jarry trade at the time, people thought it was fine. No, I don't think anybody thought it was a home run, but I don't think anybody was panning it either. It just hasn't worked out. That's the downside risk to these things too, right? You don't play the game, be it hockey, basketball, baseball, on paper. You play it on the field or court or ice, and yeah, Tristan Jarry should have been an upgrade, and should have been worth that, at least in the short term. And instead, his save percentage makes Sam Montembeault look like prime Patrick Roy, Well, so that's where we go.
And it goes back to me. It goes back to the price. Like, if it was a Tristan Jarry Stuart Skinner swap, and I understand the money involved and it wasn't that easy and blah blah blah, I get it. But even if you traded Stuart Skinner for Tristan Jarry and you threw in a fourth or fifth rounder or something, I'd be okay with that. But like, Kulak was a really important part of your defense, and I think
now you're throwing good money after bad, trying to fill the hole you created by getting rid of him.
Right.
And now you're throwing second round picks at Chicago.
Yeah, and the Oilers are really, really interesting to me. And I talked about this on the NHL show late last week. which I talked to myself for an hour, by the way, which I was very impressed. Like, I told my wife, I'm doing it by myself. I shouldn't be longer than half an hour. And somehow I just talked to myself for an hour. And I don't have any idea if it was actually worth listening to or not. But, one thing I was saying was that, you know, I, the Oilers do not look very good right now. And they found a way to get that win. They were losing 4-1 to Ottawa at home. Found a way to come back, win that game last night.
Yeah, Brady Kachuk helped a little bit in overtime.
Yeah, yeah, right. And to me, the Oilers are one of those teams that I never believe in, ever. I don't, and for good reason. Like, this is not. They've never looked this mediocre before, as far as this time like of the year, like
Right.
in like March. They've never looked this kind of mediocre.
2 years ago, but it required firing a coach to get them out of it. um,
Yeah,
two
but
years
even
ago,
then,
2+ years ago.
But
That was
even
in
then,
November.
that was in the fall, right?
Yeah,
Like, that was in
yeah,
like November. We're like, I'm talking like this deep into the season. Usually they've kind of rounded into form, but their depth is always a problem. The depth of their defense is always a problem, and their goaltending is always a problem. Yet somehow they make it to the Stanley Cup every year.
yeah.
So it's like there's different people out west that I've been talking to who are terrified of this team. Like, this team doesn't have it. There's no way that they're doing anything like this postseason. There's no way they go back to the Stanley Cup final. And to me, it's like I feel that way about them every single year. Yet somehow, when the postseason comes around, so it's like, on the one hand, if your management coming up to Friday, on the one hand, it's like, do you want do you honestly look at your roster and think that it's worth doing anything to this roster? Like, do you think that these guys can actually make a push? You're already super tight to the cap. You already don't have a lot to spend. You have some to spend. You have more than the Leafs do as far as, prospects and draft picks and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, but you still don't have a ton. But it's like, or if you're management, are you like, we're the rest of the league is right where we want them,
Well, that's
and I don't really know which one it is.
the other in the background too, right? They've made it to 2 finals in a row. So you look at Florida, and yes, there's a Barkov injury at play there, and there was a Chuck injury earlier in the season at play there for their record. But that team's been to the finals 3 years in a row, right? Won the last two. That's a tired team. They look tired. They play tired. The Oilers have been to the last two, to 7 games in the finals in the last two seasons. They don't have any rings to show for it, but they have all the bruises, all the battle scars, and all the fatigue of 2 deep playoff runs. So yeah, I mean, when you look at Leon Draisaitl, the numbers are still there, but when you look at him play, where's the jump? The bounce. He has no. Well, he doesn't quite have the juice. It looks like he's carrying around the weight of the world, or certainly of northern Alberta, on his shoulders at all times while he's skating around. And you see that with all of them. You wonder too. No matter what goaltender they put in, it doesn't work. How much of that is bad scouting or bad selection process for your goaltender, and how much of that is Darnell Nurse and co playing in front of him? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there's a point at which you wonder if a step back might not be. They've got Connor McDavid signed for 2 more years after this one, right? This would be the last year that they could have a bad season without the whispers getting really loud about number 97 potentially wanting to move on sooner than later. Maybe now's the time to retrench a little bit, wait for some of this, wait for some natural turnover, maybe any of the to move them forward kind of more organically. But it certainly doesn't look that way. It certainly looks like they're going to throw every last asset they have, throw it all out there, and try to salvage yet another deep run.
Yeah, and I think, to what you said about like Darnell Nurse and like Bouchard and stuff like that, like I I find this really interesting, and I talked to Ryder about this last week, him being from Edmonton and covering this team, and I said to him like Evan Bouchard is like certainly since I've been covering the NHL for the last, 2.5 seasons, 3 seasons. But even in like my fandom, like I can't think of a player who is more confounding than Evan Bouchard. Like he makes mistakes that are so outrageous that it's insane. Like the pizzas that guy gives up, the mistakes that guy makes, it's crazy. And it's not that he makes them all the time, but when he makes them, he makes them count. He makes it count. Um, Yet multiple times this season, he's gotten 6 points in one night. He has some of the most outrageous as his mistakes are. His offensive acumen is even more so. In the playoffs, he becomes just a terrific two-way shutdown D-man every year in the postseason. It's crazy. And, Darnell Nurse, now a big thing with, Darnell Nurse and why people out there have been so frustrated with him is his price tag.
Yeah,
And
he's got a lifetime contract at a cap hit of all of it. I was looking it
yeah,
up.
yeah, exactly. And it's like that it's not fair. Like that's in my mind, that's the salary. Like if there was no salary cap, you wouldn't care what he
Right,
makes.
right.
But because there is, that obviously becomes important.
Well, because he
Um,
makes that money, you have to trade Kulak along with Skinner to get Jari, right? Because you gotta be compliant with the cap.
right. And so for me, though, in the postseason, those two guys really do come alive. And that's kind of where I'm going here. Is like the goaltending during the regular season is always spotty. The defense is always spotty, but in the playoffs, it comes together. The one thing that I like about their goaltending situation, and I can compare it to the, you know, to the goaltending situation that we've seen there the last couple of years, is that they have Connor Ingram. And I think what was really important for Skinner was being able to give the crease to Calvin Pickard for 2, 3, 4 games,
Right.
take some time, come back and be better than ever. And now I'm of the opinion that they should give the crease to Connor Ingram regardless. Like I don't think that Tristan Jarry should be trusted as a number one goaltender right now. I think it would be like if Connor Ingram turns out to not be very good in the playoffs, then go to Tristan Jarry. That's fine. But I think to start with him would be a mistake. That's just my opinion. But I do think that Connor Ingram does give them some stability in the net. I and everyone's talking about, you were asking me about Binnington going to Montreal. I'm hearing his name linked to Edmonton, and it's like, can we just cool down on the
Right.
goalie drama in Edmonton? Like if they already have so much goalie drama out there, like you put Jordan Binnington in that hornet's nest, like, oh my god. But to the one thing that you were saying, and I am curious to see, not so much this year, but just moving forward, wanting to do everything they can to make the most of Connor McDavid's next 2 seasons, right? Now, to me, I feel like he's staying there. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think all these articles about where he might go, I think it's all a waste of time. And I think like it's fine. I'm in the industry, I'm in the business. I have no problem with you writing something that's going to make you money, but I also think that that's what it is. Is you're writing something that people are going to read and you don't really believe it yourself. And that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, it's hard out here. It's hard to make money out here. If that's how you do it, go do it. Get your money. I'm just saying I don't believe any of I just think he's staying. That being said, I do think you're right that management is going to treat him like they're like the Dungeons and Dragons nerd, like the dungeon master who somehow is dating the hottest girl at school, and it's just like I will buy you poutine every day for lunch, like whatever you want. I will just like do everything. Like he
He's
knows
gonna
he
get
doesn't
the he'll
deserve
get the
her.
Giannis Antetokounmpo treatment from the
Yeah,
Bucks.
exactly.
He'll be
He
carried
he knows
in
he
a
doesn't
chariot
deserve her.
above the ever deepening pit of feces that the team is running through
Yeah,
to get him
like
another manserved.
she's so hot that when he says something mean to her, he's like, "Frick, now I gotta buy her like a $200 bouquet, or she's gonna leave me." Like, you know, and
Yeah,
so I am curious to see the rest of the league. Like, I'm curious out your way what vibes you're getting out there, like in Vancouver, dude. You know what's so funny, man? I was covering the Dallas Vancouver game the other day, and um, I knew Vancouver was bad,
yeah.
but oh my god, like they are awful. Like I was reading some articles about the game before the game, and I saw this like preview, and it was like stats comparisons. Now Dallas Stars are one of the best teams in the NHL, so that's not entirely
Until the
fair.
playoffs.
Wait, they get to the conference finals every year, It's
Yeah,
more
the
than
team,
we can.
and then they get beaten by the team you don't believe in
That's
every
true.
year. Yeah,
That
so
is true. That's
yeah.
very true, and that solidifies my point. They also beat your team last year. Um,
Hey, that was the best run in recent Jets playoff
that's true.
history, getting out of the
That
first
is
round. I
true.
mean,
That is true.
and not to make too much light of what happened in Italy recently, but Connor Hellebuck was horrible in that first round series. They won despite him, and so yeah, you want to know what the mood is in Winnipeg heading into the trade deadline. It's not great, right? President's Trophy champions last year. Um, Horrible team this year. Recently, the Montreal Canadiens came to town maybe a month ago, a couple of weeks before the Olympics. It was at least half and half red jerseys. Our coach, who buys all of his suits at Value Village on the way to the game and gets his haircut with a Flowbee, was up in arms about it, very disappointed in the fans, which is a bad look, bud. Bad look, bud.
Yeah, very.
When you're whining at the fans when you've been this awful this year. And now Hellebuck's back, waiting on his Medal of Freedom or whatever it is. Um, yeah, vibes bad. Vibes bad. I think if Kevin Cheveldayoff's known, we were talking about Gorton and Hughes in Montreal and the patience that they've shown in the rebuild and the patience you expect them to keep showing. Cheveldayov's always been a very patient GM, the original GM, since they moved back to Winnipeg from Atlanta, or moved to Winnipeg from Atlanta, has always been extremely patient, and so that's the backdrop against which Jets fans are feeling pretty desolate, pretty hopeless. What they would like to see, I think, mostly is a big change, a shakeup, and ideally bring in some young talent, controllable young talent for the future, because this year showed a lot of the cracks in the armor. The Taves signing, feel good stories don't feel so good when you lose 5-1, Yeah, the mood's bad. I'm not sure how much the Jets really have that they can sell off in a deadline kind of a way in order to talking about the way that the Oilers are going to be treating Connor McDavid moving forward, the way that the Milwaukee Bucks have always treated Giannis Antetokounmpo cross
Mhm.
sport. That's the way the Jets treat every single player who's willing to sign long term here. There are more no trade clauses on the Winnipeg Jets than there are probably in the rest of the division. And so, yeah, any kind of shakeup most likely to wait until the offseason. People are pretty it's pretty gray here. The mood around the Jets is not it's not ideal, even though they've taken, I think, 4 of the last 6 possible points or some such thing, and some people are thinking there's a dark horse chance at a run to the last wild card. No, there isn't, and the Winnipeg Arena, the Canada Life Center, is likely to be not overrun by Habs fans anymore because they don't play here the rest of the season, but you'll see some empty seats, which is always a talking point here. And I think that's the mood here is pretty desolate.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I understand the disappointment. I understand the negative vibes. To me, I just think that I think the Jets have good players, and I think that their best players, not I think, this is a fact. Their best players are signed for the next like almost decade.
Right.
And
have
so
full no trade clauses.
Yeah, and so to me, I just think Connor Hellebuck he was hurt for a lot of this year, and I think that is, even if that's not the only reason why this year went sideways, I think it's good enough of a reason to just come back next year, do what you got to do to get, better in the off season. Listen, to me, and I'm not putting all of this on Jonathan Toews. No way. I'm not doing that. However, I think the idea, and I said this at the time, getting Jonathan Toews is a really great story. And it's a really great feel-good story. Winnipeg guy wants to show that he has something left, and he does have something left. But to pencil him in, not even pencil, to put him in pen as your second line center just seemed irresponsible to me. It just seemed like the guy hadn't played hockey in 3 seasons,
right?
And you're putting him in as your second line center.
And he was significantly diminished in his last few years in the league. I know part of that was due to illness, right? But
yes, big
even
time.
before that, he had been in decline. He had been in severe decline, right? I mean, the guy.
Oh yeah, and so like, listen, I love Jonathan Toews, and he can help you in like fourth line role, third line role. I just felt like it under promise and over deliver. Like, find a way to put somebody else in that second line center spot. And if Toews just wows you, then by all means move him up. But I just thought that was really miscalculated. Not to bring him in. Let me reiterate that. I think signing him is fine. But to give him that responsibility of second line center, it never computed with me.
Yeah, and they really miss Nick Ehlers too. He's had his injury issues all the time, but playing a little bit down in the lineup, right? He just brings an amount of dynamism to the team. It really adds energy when he does play. The offensive numbers were always there when he was healthy, and just a completely different look, to what you're getting with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's how
we went
goes,
way too long on here, and I've only got about 20 minutes, 15 minutes left.
We
went wicked long on that.
Plan on talking about hockey at all.
No, I thought I'd give you a little warm up because I know you're going live. Anybody listening now, that'll be live. Mark's going live at 5 Eastern with a trade deadline preview show. I thought maybe just warm you up a little bit. I know you've been in the car. I know you've been working. And so I thought I'd give you a little warm up. And we didn't really have a planned segue into baseball. And now we probably don't have time to do a full baseball.
I am very easy. I'm very easy to warm up. It doesn't take much for me.
We're 35 minutes. I said I spit some hockey takes, but how about that?
Yeah, you did. I was very impressed.
I know the names of over a dozen players across.
14. So you know what, man? We're gonna I'll have to change the title of this video once we go to Spotify.
Let's do this. Of all the Blue Jays additions this year, just a little teaser for when we do come back with the proper This Week in Canada, when we do come back with a MLB show, and hopefully you guys remember our MLB coverage from the playoffs last year before the playoffs were
A
abruptly
lot of fun.
canceled after Game 5 of the World Series. Who's the biggest of the Jays additions this year? Who do you think is the most impactful?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say we are gonna do a baseball show tomorrow night, are we not?
I
I'm
believe so.
fairly certain. So we'll talk some World Baseball Classic then, and yeah, we have a couple weeks still to talk about the Blue Jays. Sorry, what was your question? Professional
Most impactful
podcasting?
addition. I know everybody knows Bo Bichette is now a New York Met, right? So that is what it is. But in terms of
Yeah.
additions to the team, because we made a number, the Jays were very, very active front office, in particular the beginning part of the offseason. Who do you think has the most impact on this team's fortunes this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of twofold, and I would be curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. You know, I think Tyler Rogers is a sneaky, like, underrated signing. Like, I just think that, like, if you really narrow it down, and I know we don't want to talk about this anymore, but it's just reality. Like, I know that we were up 3-0 in Game 7 of the World Series. I know that we had a million men on base and first, second, third, and bases loaded during extra innings. I know all of that. We were up 4-3 going into the bottom of the ninth, right? And I
Yep.
just think that, like, the bullpen, the lack of arms that you trusted in the bullpen is what ultimately, if you wanted to simplify it, cost you the World Series. And you can don't get me wrong, I understand again the runners in scoring position. I understand in game, what was it, the 18 inning marathon that just
Yeah,
I
game
still haven't
3,
recovered from that.
game 4, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, that game, I understand the, like, runners on base and all that. I get it. But the bullpen really didn't fully, like, you just didn't fully trust it. So I think that's a really, like, underrated signing. Um to me, it's I really like, so I'll go two different ways here. Number one, I love the Dylan Cease. Like, I just to me, I love pitching. I'm a sucker for pitchers. I would rather watch 6-7 innings of an all-star pitcher than 4 at-bats of an all-star hitter. You know what I mean? Like, I
mhm.
just love pitching, and I think the Blue Jays, and again, curious to know kind of your thoughts on this, but, like, the Blue Jays, I feel like their rotation has a very, very high ceiling, but also a very high floor as
Yeah.
well. Like,
I think you bring up a really good point, and we can see the longer we go, the Ross Atkins type, right? I mean, the best embodiment of it is probably Kevin Gossman, right? He wants durable guys who pitch their 200 innings, get their 200 strikeouts, high floor, and yeah, sure, there's some ceiling there, but I mean, Dylan Cease is just another guy in that same mold. I mean, the two of them they're two of the top 5 pitchers in innings pitched over the last 5 years. Two of the top 5 pitchers in strikeouts over the last 5 years. Two strikeout guys, big right-handers, right? Who never miss a start. Uh, the big trade for this is years ago now, but the Barrios trade, the same thing, right? A guy who you know is going to take the ball every fifth day. You know the guy's going to give you 200 innings. His stuff has kind of faded over time, but I mean that happens when you're pitching as much as he's pitched, right? We saw they gone now, but they targeted Chris Bassett for the same reason. They just love guys who they can give the ball to and say go. And then now this year, obviously, they also have Shane Bieber's opted back in. They've got the youngster Trey Savage, Cody Ponce. Cody Ponce has come back from sojourn to the Far East. He looks a little bit like the same mold as Cease and Gosman and those guys. Big right-handed pitcher, a very big guy. He's about 6'6". He's more of an effectively wild guy, but at his best, he should be able to add a lot of strikeouts. Striking to me at the beginning of spring training before Max Scherzer was re-signed, but after we had the news that Shane Bieber would be beginning the year on the IL, was that Kevin Gosman said, I think this rotation, this pitching staff has a chance to lead the majors in strikeouts. So yeah, not a guy who typically talks too much. Not a guy who's outlandish with his takes. Kevin Gosman kind of walk softly, carry a big stick sort of a guy. So for him to say that, it tells me that the internal optimism on the team, and these are veterans, right? These guys know what it takes. Here's a guy who just pitched in the World Series a couple of months ago. If he's saying that, then yeah, I think the internal optimism is good. On paper, it looks good, right? We were just talking about that. They don't play on paper, but on paper, it sure looks great. And we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, over 162 starting for the Blue Jays on March 27th. Major League Baseball's opening day is a one-off between the Yankees and the Giants on Wednesday, March 25th. I don't know why they mess around with the schedule like that, but it's always fun to have your fantasy baseball draft randomly early in a week for no reason. Yeah, I think you're
missed
right, though, that the additions to the pitching staff, writ large. You brought up Rogers, but also, I mean, Mad Max is back. Dylan Cease, the Cody Ponce additions. They run 8 deep with, if in theory everybody healthy, they run 8 deep with legitimate starting pitching options, and that's even with Bowden Francis out for the year with Tommy John surgery. So yeah, that's definitely where I land in terms of overall value. We'll see Louis Varland, what it looks like when Louis Varland can pitch with a little bit of rest out of the bullpen. I think that'll be exciting too.
Oh my gosh!
instead of throwing every day,
every single day. Well, the thing is, too, man, is like what I'm really, I look at this a little more big picture too. Which, first of all, before I get to that point, I really like, because like you have Dylan Cease, you have like you said, Kevin Gosman, you're bringing back Mad Max, which, like, Max Scherzer, what I love about him at this stage of his career is he'll do whatever. Yeah. Like he'll pitch 2-3 innings to open up a ball game, or he'll go, do whatever. Like he's not worried about getting his 6-7 innings every 5 days. Like he'll do whatever it takes for the team to win. And so I really like that. I like this concept that they've been kind of floating out there and talking about. And I know I love, like, Eric Lauer coming out and saying, like, I want to start. I like that. I admire that. I want my starting pitchers, or my pitchers in general, to have that attitude.
Yeah, you want
at the same time. Sure. I like the idea of piggybacking Yosevich and Lauer. Like this idea of, like, because Yosevich, like, he took the league by storm at the end of the season, but obviously more specifically in the postseason.
Right.
And I think it's very unfair to put that expectation on him heading into this season. That doesn't mean that he is going to be good, or that doesn't mean that he is not going to be good, that he isn't going to be great, that we're not going to see what we saw in the postseason. But it's a very, very long season. And he literally played on every team in the Blue Jays system last year. Like, he literally went from A, AA, AAA, like majors. Like,
and I think pitch jump from his last year in college, when he only pitched 80-something, 90-something innings, to last year when he pitched 130-something, deep into October, into November. That's a very short off season for him. So I think I hate saying temper expectations because that kind of has a connotation of he's not going to be good. He's not going to be striking out 14 Rays in his debut every week. That's ludicrous. And so everybody just stop. That's
Yeah.
he's not the second coming of 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 a right-handed Randy Johnson.
And I
That's
think
okay. He's
having
going to be good, and it's going to take a minute. But he's still got rookie eligibility, right? And he's not going to pitch more than 160 innings because they're not going to be uh, reckless with his workload. They're not going to try to blow this guy out. We've just seen what happens when a young pitcher comes up and exceeds expectations and then runs into injury problems. What happens is they're Alek Manoah and they wind up signing a minor league deal with the California Angels, Anaheim
and
Angels,
then
Los
saying that
Angeles,
they
or
had
whatever.
something
And
and then
that's a cautionary tale, and we do not wish being Alek Manoah on Trey Savage or anybody else, right? And you don't wish having to sign with the Los Angeles Angels of Orange County, owned by Artie
Anaheim.
Moreno and his
Yeah.
weird self, and his whatever consortium
And
of
then
parking lots.
going on record
What
and
a horrible place! It's a terrible, terrible situation, and we're not going to do that to Trey Savage. I'm
having
sure.
and then having the audacity to say that he had anything to do with the World Series run. Like that was
Just
outrageous. I couldn't believe it.
a strange series of words that came out of his mouth, and I try to, I always do. I try, Mark. I try to look at like, okay, but what did he mean? You know what I mean? Like, because
Nothing.
let's be honest, these pro athletes. He's good at throwing a ball. I mean, he used to be, maybe not a wordsmith. You know what I'm saying? And
I
so,
just I
you can't expect all of your pro athletes to have the media savvy of like Bob Gainey.
it was
It's not they're not all Ken Drydens out here,
I get it,
And then
man.
I looked at what he said and I listened to what he said and then I thought, maybe I'll look at it again because when I heard it, it didn't sound any better than when I looked at it. And I got absolutely not. I have no idea what he's on. Some copium, I suppose. Yeah, inexcusably odd statements. He just said
Yeah, it
his
was very
mouth
weird.
opened and a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff came out of it.
It
You know
was
what?
very weird.
Nobody's gonna ever have to hear from him again because he plays for one of the biggest the butt of one of the biggest jokes in pro sports, which is that Artie Moreno is an owner of a pro team.
I think the
Rip
one
Alec.
thing to go back to it, I just think that the the good thing for Yasevich and something that I really am looking forward to seeing how this unfolds is that in the playoffs you have three starters basically,
Yeah,
right? And you
four.
kind
Yeah.
of like for like your rotation shrinks. And now he's really like insulated. Like the amount of quality, talented arms around him. It's not like when he came onto the scene in the playoffs, he was a vocal point.
Mm,
Like he was a needed, like we need you to dominate. And that's not the case right now.
right. What
So
the Jays have done really is take a page from. They don't have the farm system. They don't have the lineup. They do have the defense, but what they've done here is with this pitching staff, they've taken a page from the LA Dodgers book, which is to say, who says the rotation's five pitchers? Yeah, it's five pitchers, but you need eight. So why not have eight? And as we saw last year, you have a lot more fresh pitching when you can nudge, nudge, wink, wink your way to a lengthy IL stint mid-year, a la Blake
oh yeah.
Snell, a la Tyler Glasnow, a la these guys who were coming into the World Series with significantly fewer miles on their arm last year than the guys that the Jays were trotting out against them. Now, very nearly won anyway, but imagine if they, this kind of not just depth, but like impact depth, it's always a cliche when you have an injured player coming back mid-season or towards the end of the year. Oh, that's our trade deadline acquisition, right? That's our big trade deadline acquisition. Ours was supposed to be Anthony Santander last year, and I guess it's supposed to be Anthony Santander again this year. But there's really were Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell. These are the guys that they're hiding on the IL all year, who come back fresh as a daisy and able to mow down as a competition in October when everybody else is running on fumes, and that's kind of the opportunity. There's nothing written in stone. There's no guarantees. Obviously, 162 games, hitting a cylinder with a sphere, right, or hitting a sphere with a cylinder. Uh, Weird stuff happens. Injuries can mount, but I mean they've got 8, by God, real legitimate starting pitching options who none of whom would be out of place on most teams' opening day rosters, right? So that's enviable depth. We'll get more into it on the MLB show. We'll get more into it on this week in Canada as we move forward. When I will not hijack the conversation with my
I
curiosity
love
about
it.
the Montreal
It's all good.
Canadiens deadline
It's
play.
trade deadline. It's okay. But like, you know what, man? Like, so like really quickly, there's a couple things that I think are important here to round this off. Number one, I think that another very underrated part of this conversation when it comes to the rotation, I'll save that actually for a minute. I think there's a very underrated piece here that I think there's a lot of negativity around, and I'm very curious about it or confused by it, maybe. But to your earlier question about the most impactful free agent, I think this is twofold. CCS, I think Okamoto is very interesting. He's a relative unknown. He is unknown when it comes to American baseball.
Right.
And it's always kind of not a crapshoot, but it's always kind of a
It's a big
guessing
mystery, man. It's
game.
one of the most fun things in baseball. Is these
Yeah, like
mysterious Japanese players come over.
we'll just kind of see what happens. But what I was saying before was the bigger picture of this is way more interesting to me and exciting to me than simply acquiring players like CC, like Okamoto, is the fact that the Blue Jays actually got them.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the Blue Jays, not only that they said yes to the Blue Jays, but the fact that the Blue Jays actually went out, tried honestly and intentionally to get them, because we always hear that in the Blue Jays land, like, oh, they were in on this, they were in on Judge, they were in on Otani, they were in on this player, they were in on. It's gotten to the point where a running joke on Twitter is the like Photoshop of like a banner hanging beside the 93 World Series that says we were in on Otani,
right,
or like we were in on whatever. Like that's the running joke up here, right? And the fact that they actually went out, sought these guys, got these guys, I think is a really huge, like it needs to be talked about with regards to how this front office has operated over the last decade. Like you and I both have been very honest about like the World Series. I was sad that they lost, and I was equally as sad that I had to give like Ross Atkins any credit for what that team just accomplished. But it was all him, right? And the fact that they got those guys, it shows me that this front office, like, I don't know, man, like that's really encouraging. Like whether it works out or not, I just think like, because you never know with baseball, man. Baseball players can fall off a cliff out of nowhere. Right. It's just the fact that they went out. They were not the only teams who wanted these players, and these players said yes. I think that's huge.
And not only did the players say yes, but I mean Dylan Cease, one of the first the first major free agent.
He took a pay cut.
Signed with us. He did $30 million a year, $210 million over 7 is nobody's pay cut. But Dylan Cease,
but he could have got more, I think.
Perhaps. But he didn't because he chose to sign with the Jays. The thing is, they didn't at that point fold up their tent and say, look, we got our main target. They were still active. They were in on Tucker. I know they didn't get him, but they were in on Tucker till the very end. But that didn't stop them from signing Cody Ponce from Korea. Yeah, it's 3 years, $30 million. That's not that much. But when you've just dumped 210 on Dylan Cease, taking a risk on a guy coming back from Korea, a $30 million risk over 3 years, that's not nothing. Signing Kazuma Okamoto for 460, right? That's not nothing. That's a risk that's gonna linger 4 years, right? If that doesn't go well, that's gonna have a pretty nasty smell around the clubhouse.
It's a long risk
for 4 years. I think it's going to work out well, but I mean, we've seen them do the same thing that in the past with other risks that they've taken, and they'll go ahead and pay. Chad Green was off the roster by the end of the year. They paid him his whole salary, obviously guaranteed contracts in baseball, right? The thing is, they didn't just get the one guy. They kept going all winter long. They were still, after they had signed Okamoto, they were still in on Tucker. After they had, after they had signed Dylan Cease, they just kept going. And even at the beginning of spring training, trading Joey Loperfido for Jesus Sanchez. If Jesus Sanchez is a massive contributor to the Blue Jays this year, some weird stuff has happened for sure. But they added $6 million to their payroll, to their luxury tax number, when they're over the highest threshold, just to make the marginal short-term improvement from Loperfido to Jesus Sanchez. Jesus Sanchez.
Jesus,
they're not. There's nothing conservative. There's nothing scared about the way that this front office is going after players, and when they do make the big splash, they don't then sit back on their laurels and say, no, we did the one thing. You can't expect us to do more. They were still out there trying to do more and more and more. And so I don't know if this team is the best team in the American League. I don't even know if it's the best team in the American League East. I tend to think it is in the American League East. I tend to think Seattle has the best roster outside of the Los Angeles Dodgers in all of baseball. So that's neither here nor there. I agree, though, the boldness and the success on the bold moves that the Jays tried this year is definitely an interesting ongoing storyline, especially since even with all of these contracts that they signed this year, they have a ton of money coming off the books at the end of this year, hopefully another very successful year, and we'll see what happens next. Another underlying storyline that goes along with that, Dylan Cease being another arrow pointing in the direction of the Jays love to do business with Scott Boras. Scott Boras store is their favorite retail establishment where they can go buy major league players and especially major league pitching. There's a pretty good left-handed pitcher playing up the string in Detroit this season, who is a Scott Boras client, slated for free agency next year. And when you have all this right-handed pitching and you have this great relationship with Scott Boras, and you absolutely have clearly and no shyness about flexing the muscle. You have all the money in the world. I'm just saying,
listen,
whether he signs in Toronto or not, get ready to hang one of those banners next to the 92 and 93 next offseason. We're getting way ahead of ourselves here.
They could have traded for Aaron Judge and kept Bo Bichette and got Kyle Tucker all within a week of each other, and I still wouldn't give my hopes up that they would land Scooble. Like, we'll see how that goes. But the one thing,
my hopes are not up about that. They're not down about that either. I have no idea. You never know what a free agent's going to do, right? What I'm saying is, get ready for the Scooble industrial complex in the media coming.
Oh yeah, of course. It's going to be
the
one thing that I did really, because we got to take off the NHL show. Trade deadline show will be live in about half an hour's time. I do want to quickly run this by you because I think what you said was really interesting there, talking about if they're the best team in the AL in the AL East. That's another reason why I think it was really important that the Blue Jays were active this winter and that they were active. Like, I think it was important that they needed to be, and they ended up being, because the AL East, like, listen, man, everyone has said this for so long that it's the hardest division in baseball. It's the hardest division in baseball.
It's the hardest division in baseball.
Right now, like my point is, even growing up, they said that the Blue Jays sucked, the Orioles sucked, the Rays sucked. You had two good teams, and the rest of them sucked forever. Now, the Rays are the Rays. They're going to be good with a total salary cap of like 27 million.
Yeah,
And
the Rays are playing with an NHL salary cap, whereas the rest of the Major League Baseball
oh
plays
yeah, but
without
like,
one. Yeah.
listen, man, Baltimore, like they may have like gone too far over. Like they may have just done too much. I don't know.
They did one
But
thing too many times. I'll agree with that. Trading for Taylor Ward, last year's signing of Tyler O'Neill was a bust. Sad Canadian.
yeah,
But he could come back this year and be good, except there's no at-bats left for him because they traded for Taylor Ward from the Los Angeles Angels. Weird trade for Grayson Rodriguez. They signed Pete Alonso.
I
They
like Ward.
brought back Ryan Mountcastle. I'm not sure how many right-handed. Oh, they extended Samuel Basallo, their catching first base DH prospect. Colton Cowser's still there. The prospect shine has run off. We're up to six guys for 2-3 lineup spots. Tyler O'Neill, I don't know. Yes, all of those players are good. All of those players would have been an upgrade. Well, except for Ryan Mountcastle, all of those players would be an upgrade on what they went into last season with, right? But when you have all of them, you can only upgrade. You can only play one first baseman. You can only play one DH. You can only have one mashing outfielder who can't actually field. That guy typically
Right.
usually plays DH. They just doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on after having made an error in judgment last year with Tyler O'Neill. I don't know. They're definitely better than they were last year. I think if they had brought back the same players that they had last year, they would have been better than they were last year. Jackson Holliday's hamate injury notwithstanding, they had a first half from hell last year, right? They were
They
quite
did.
a bit better
Yeah.
in the second half, and they would have been better this year regardless. It'll be interesting to see. They allocated a lot of resources, a lot of money, and a lot of trade assets to just upgrading and re-upgrading the same position over and over again in a ballpark that they changed a few years ago to be harder for right-handed power hitters. They've just really doubled, quadrupled down on bringing in more right-handed power hitters. I'm not sure what they're doing. That's it. It's baseball. They could be fantastic. Gunnar Henderson could put up a 10-win season. Jackson Holliday could be the rare player who comes back from a hamate injury without a lack of power. Maybe Adley Rutschman comes back. Maybe Adley Rutschman goes back to his Hall of Fame track that he was on a few years ago, rather than the soon to be out of the league track he's appeared to be on for the last two. We'll see. But yeah, weird allocation of resources. We could talk about the Red Sox. We could talk about the Yankees another time. The Jays are certainly in the mix, I would say, in the AL East, and probably the favorites.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it was just important that they were active because the rest of these teams, not the Yankees weren't active, but they were already very good.
Right.
And the Red Sox, I think they're going to be just like better than last season, just another year with a lot of the same players.
Really
It's
weird
going to be
team,
really
but yeah.
competitive. I'm really looking forward to it. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching live. We really, really appreciate it. For listening on Spotify as well, we appreciate that. If you are watching live, like I said, me and my guy Jim, he's been on here many times with me. He will be on at 5 o'clock to talk NHL trade deadline. So go get a coffee, go get a cold one, go get a whatever. I don't know why roast beef sandwich came to mind. I do like a good sandwich. Underrated. We're
Chili
talking about
cheese meat
underrated.
stick.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was bizarre. I'll talk about that later. That's not important right now, especially when we have to go. Yeah, so what was I even talking about? Oh yeah, Spotify.
Hockey, trade deadline.
If you are listening on Spotify, then check your feed. More likely than not, the trade deadline show is in there as well. Tom will be back with me tomorrow night. We will talk some Major League Baseball, World Baseball Classic as it gets underway tonight, right? Doesn't it start tonight?
5th,
Or is it
6th?
tomorrow?
I'll be honest with you, Mark. I have a really hard time figuring out what day of the week it is here when it's another day of the when it's
No.
the round robin starts on
Is
the 6th, but I don't know when the 6th is because if it's starting in Chinese Taipei or whatever, is it starting in Tokyo? When is it the 6th in
that's
Tokyo? Is
so
it the 5th here or is it the
funny.
7th here? I
Yeah.
don't.
Hold on a second. We'll get down to the bottom
It's
of this.
starting soon. That's when it's starting.
It is starting
The scrimmage
soon.
is happening today. The Blue Jays, what's left of the Blue Jays spring training roster is playing against
10
the
o'clock
Philadelphia Phillies.
p.m. Chinese Taipei against Australia. 10
When?
o'clock p.m.
Tomorrow?
Tonight.
Tonight?
Tonight, EST, 10 o'clock p.m. 5 a.m. Czechia, Republic of Korea, and 10. What? That is so crazy, dude. So this is just wild. So 10 o'clock p.m. tonight, Chinese Taipei, and if I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize, against Australia. And then tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., Czechia is playing Republic of Korea. And then 10
Czech
o'clock
Republic
tomorrow
and
night.
Korea, yeah.
And then tomorrow night, Australia is playing Czechia. So it's just those three teams, I guess. And it starts in earnest on Friday. Like Friday is a game at 5 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 10 p.m. Like Friday is when it really gets underway. But there will be 3 games between tonight, tomorrow morning, and tomorrow night. We will be here tomorrow night to talk about the World Baseball Classic and the MLB as a whole. Like I said on Spotify, all these episodes will be up there as well. Everybody, thank you so much. I was so excited to talk to Tom at the beginning of the show. I didn't even tell anybody that this show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now, promo code SPORTS10 gets you 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off your order. Also, Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media. Big shout out to them, as always, for having us on board. Whether it's football, the draft is right around the corner. Free agency is right around the corner. Everyone is making their franchise tags, getting ready for the off season. Or whether it's basketball, the playoffs are right around the corner. Hockey, same thing. Baseball season's right around the corner. Total Apex Sports have you covered. Everybody, thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow night. Until then, have a great